And we're live.
Hi, everyone. We're just going to wait about a minute or two so that more people have the opportunity to join before we get into everything. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the 2019 Pre-Provincials Hangout. We're really excited that all of you are joining us this evening to talk about all things Deca before our competition. So I guess we'll start off by doing some quick officer introductions. My name is Maria and I'm the president of Deca Ontario.
My name is Jensen and I'm the secretary of Deca Ontario.
My name is Bill and I'm Deca Ontario's branding and communications officer.
My name is Keisha and I'm the media coordinator.
My name is Vioma and I'm one of the chapter development officers.
My name is Matt and I'm the other chapter development officer.
And my name is Yosh and I'm the events coordinator.
Okay, so we're just going to talk about the agenda for this evening. So first, we're going to start off with general stuff going on this week. So all of the event stuff, what days, what things are happening. Then we're going to all break down some tips and tricks, packing lists, all that kind of stuff on all things provincials. And then we leave it open to you guys for a question and answer period. So we'll start off with the general agenda for the week. So tomorrow and Tuesday are the hospitality, business management, and finance exams. So everyone who isn't in the marketing cluster will be writing their exam. And these will take place at school throughout the day, depending on whatever your chapter has already decided. On Saturday, February 9th are the marketing exams as well. So those will take place during the competition, the morning of the award ceremonies. On Thursday is when the chapter check-ins for those of you who are staying overnight at one of our hotels. That's the day that you guys will be checking in, probably after school. Friday is when all of the events and all that will take place. So LDA will be happening from 8 till 4. All of the events as well as the sponsorship booths will be taking place from 8:30 till 5:30, in which your time cards and all that can be found on the Provincials page of the Deca Ontario website. So you guys can all check that out. And then on Saturday are our 3 award sessions, which will be taking place at 8:30, 12:30, and 3:30. And all of that information, again, will be on your time cards. So now I'll hand it off to Yosh.
All right, so I'm going to get started with just some last-minute general tips for those of you who are writing exam. So for everyone who's writing an exam, I will put a link in the chat which tells you if you are writing an exam and when you will be writing it. So whether that's going to be at school or at Sheridan. And just to go over tomorrow and Tuesday, where if you're writing for your school, you'll be writing it on Answer Right. And don't worry, we won't have the same problem we had at regionals with the Answer Right system. And for those of you in the marketing events, you will be writing on Saturday at the Sheridan at 8 a.m. Exams will be taking place in Sheridan Hall, the Provincial Ballroom, as well as the Dominion Ballroom. Remember to check your time cards to see where you are writing the exam, and make sure you're in full business attire for the exam. If you're going in to write it on Saturday, make sure to bring in pencils, eraser, a sharpener, your 4-function calculator, because you're going to be writing it with the Scantron. And remember your ID as well as your time cards, and give yourself enough time to get there. If you're in a hotel or you're coming in, remember that it's Saturday, so some of the parts of the path are closed. So keep that in mind when you're trying to get there. And remember, try to be there 30 minutes early. Overall, with the exam, it's 100 questions. You guys will have 75 minutes to write it. Just to go over some general tips, I like to break it down that there's your freebie questions as well as your challenge questions. So with your freebie questions, you can consistently just get them right. But with the challenge questions, 9 out of 10 times you have to guess. And almost everyone is guessing on those questions. But it comes down to how good your guess can be. And that's where I highly recommend you read the question slowly. Keep reading it over and look for those keywords. Deca questions and Deca exams have like 1 or 2 words in the question that can really differentiate you from one answer to another. And that does make a big difference. If you take the time, read out those questions, even whisper them to yourself sometimes. It's okay to do that, and just stay calm and focused. If you're finding a question hard, other people are probably finding it challenging as well. So just take the guess that you think would be the right Deca answer and trust your gut. Usually your first choice is the right choice that you are making. Another tip in general, just think of an answer in your head before you start looking at the answers that are given. Often some of the words that are there are just there to throw you off. So just think of an answer in your head before. Don't think too hard. Eliminate all the wrong answers, because that really helps you narrow down to which answers you think are best. And stay till the end of the exam. This is by far the best tip I've ever been given, where you stay till the very last minute, because you can use all that time to look over and just double check, triple check, quadruple check all your answers and make sure it's right. And stay calm and confident. You guys have been working hard for so long. It just comes down to those 75 minutes, but just relax. Stay calm, have a positive attitude. That's the best thing you can do with the exam, and try to have fun out of it. A few last minute resources I recommend, like checking out some Deca Direct articles and Finance Simplified Chapter 1. So this is Deca Ontario specific textbook, and Chapter 1 goes over multiple choice advice. I highly recommend checking that out, which can be found in the Deca Hub, as well as the exam blueprint under district will tell you which exams, which instructional areas are your exams are going to be targeted in your exam. And other than that, that's it for exams. Good luck, guys, and just have fun.
All right, so now I'm just going to be going over a couple of things that everyone should remember to bring for their competition. So for both roleplay and written competitors, do make sure to bring your student ID or time cards. And for your ID, you won't be allowed to compete unless you have it. So just in case you forget it, do make sure to take a picture of it in case it gets lost or anything else happens. Again, also make sure to bring your time cards. And now starting off with roleplay competitors, make sure to bring your pad folio, and please remember to check to make sure that you have no pre-printed or rewritten notes. If any of those are found, even if they were left in there by accident, you will get disqualified. So please make sure to double check that. Also make sure to bring in blue and black pens or pencils and a watch so that you can time yourself as you're speaking as well. That's always really helpful. Now, as for written competitors, make sure you've brought in all of your presentations, your prototypes, all posters, and whatever materials you need. Also make sure to check your presentation beforehand, and if you are bringing in a clicker, also make sure that works as well. And as for dress code, this goes for everyone, but do make sure that you're wearing professional attire. That means you have on a blazer, dress pants, or a dress skirt, as well as a dress or a nice blouse and a dress shirt. So for dresses, do make sure they're knee length. And there was a question in the chat as to whether or not your knees can show when you sit down. That's perfectly fine. As long as the skirt or dress itself is knee length, that's perfectly fine. Also make sure for guys, don't wear any white socks. Make sure to wear anything but white socks. Also make sure to have a tie. And dress shoes and heels and flats are also permitted. Try not to have open-toed shoes, and try not to wear really, really high heels as well. You're also feel free to wear any jewelry. Try to make sure not to overdo it. And again, if you're ever unsure, make sure to always dress conservatively. Now, as for swag, so for Deca's 40th year, we have a lot of really cool swag for you guys. So make sure to bring in as much money as you can to buy jackets, laptop bags, hoodies, long sleeves, mittens, hats, stickers, and finalist t-shirts as well. So we really hope you guys enjoy all of the swag we have, and we hope that you guys come prepared as well. And just another note, Yash touched upon this before, but if you're staying in at the hotel, do make sure you try to come down at least 30 minutes before your time. Again, there's so many people in the hotel, so you just want to make sure you're not waiting for elevators for like a couple of minutes. So make sure that you leave as soon as you can.
All right, and I'll be talking about some things that you can do in Toronto during Deca Ontario Provincials. This upcoming weekend might be stressful for some of you guys, especially with so much on the line. It's easy to get stressed and lost in the competition, but Toronto is a really fun city with lots of stuff you can do with your friends. Through the path, you can easily get to the Eaton Center in a few minutes walking without even like stepping outside. You can easily go there with your friends and relax a little bit, fit in some shopping. If you're a little hungry, you can always stop into the food court under the Sheraton. It's super accessible. There's a Subway. You can easily go there for a quick snack. Also, the CN Tower is going to be lit up blue and gold to commemorate Deca Ontario's 40th anniversary. So if you have some time, feel free to check out the CN Tower, pay it a visit, and celebrate Deca Ontario's 40th anniversary. If you're getting a little bit more hungry and the food court food isn't doing it for you, be sure to check out the Deca Deals. They will be posted on our social media in the next few days. With the Deca Deals, Deca Ontario members are available to qualify for some exclusive discounts at local restaurants. If you choose to participate in Deca Deals, be sure that you read the post carefully. You're going to have to bring your lanyard to qualify for the discount. And for some of them, you might even need to pick up a coupon.
So I'm just going to touch on some quick last-minute role-play tips, some things that you can use and incorporate in your case, just to help you bring that extra edge and see if you guys can get your way off to Orlando. So the first thing I want to actually talk about is a reiteration of what Vioma talked about, is bringing a watch. It's the easiest way to time yourself, and it gives you that peace of mind knowing I've got 8 minutes to go. This is my prep time, and it gives you the idea of when your time's up, when to ask the judges for questions. So that's the first thing to look about. The second thing you also want to look at is really your performance indicators, because that's how you're going to be marked on your case. And that's the big chunk of it. And to get those right is the easiest way to boost yourself and elevate yourself to the next level. So when you're looking at performance indicators, I'd like to think of the acronym Deca. Define, explain, connect, and go above and beyond. So first, define. If I'm given a PI, like explain the concept of competition, well, I'll first define it by maybe a one-line or a one sentence that just explains what I'm talking about. So the concept of competition is really about focusing on our industry and our market share, the different competitors that take up our consumers' demand. So in the common tech industry, it would be Apple and Samsung are two examples that do that. What I did there is I just defined it and I used an example for it. Then I'd explain it in relation to case. Use these PIs as a guiding point. They're used because they're mentioned in the case because they really help it reiterate the solution that you have and what you're talking about, which leads me to the connection. Connecting this PI to your solution. The solution is at the end of the day what the judge is looking for, and they're looking for you to solve the problem in the case. So how can you do that effectively? Use the PI to help you boost your solution and elevate it to the next level, and finally go above and beyond. Think about what all the other competitors are going to do around you. What is the most logical solution in this case? And then take it a step further, whether that's a graphic, an infographic, visual, or something. I know a lot of competitors like to do like those PowerPoints where they'll write information and they'll just hold it up like this, and then they'll lay it down, and then they can use those. Some competitors like to use an agenda. Some like to use an infographic. Do what works for you. And I know there's a lot of different examples to do this, and I want to reiterate the point that we have a training kit and a chapter kit all in the Deca Hub, as well as I did a custom role play just to give you an idea what a 90th percentile role play will look like, all under register.deca.ca. Log in with your username and password. That gives you a good baseline on what's there to talk about. The next thing I want to talk about is really just looking at managing more specifically your time. As you know, for individual events, you get 10 minutes for your preparation and then 10 minutes to actually present. And for team events, you get 30 minutes to do your preparation and 15 minutes to present. That all includes questions as well. So for those 10 minutes, think about what can you do specifically that will solve the problem, go over the PIs, and answer the judge's question. That last part is really important. Leave about 2 minutes or 1 minute at the end to answer the judge's 2 or 3 questions. The judges will ask you those questions and use them as an opportunity to boost your solution, answer anything that you may have forgotten in your case. For team events, leave about that 2 minute mark as well as that sweet spot where you can really answer them, any of the remaining objections, anything like that. That's the point. Here's the easiest way, I think, to really boost your case now. Your introduction. The first time you meet the judge is that lasting impression you wanna leave with them. And you want to make sure that they remember you. So how do you do that? With a really good intro. I like to practice my intro, and I don't script it, but I like to have some sort of baseline for it. So I'll give you a little example. Hi there, nice to meet you. May I please take a seat? As you know, I'm the XYZ director of this company, and I'll change it around for each company, but it gives me a good baseline for those role play tips there. The other thing when you're doing your intro is really look at if you can coordinate it if you're in a team event with your partner, and getting that down is a really great way to show that enthusiasm and collaboration. And it just adds a little pop to your case. It sets you off to that right point where you can really start your case with a positive note, and that's what you want to do. one point I like to give out, especially for first-time competitors, is try to find out where your event is. So we talked about being there 30 minutes before, and that's 30 minutes ready to go. Don't be there looking 30 minutes, where's my event? Where am I going to go? Be there 30 minutes to go ready. That means if that's 45 minutes or 50 minutes before, looking around, seeing this is where my event is, this is where I'm going to compete, that's where I'm going to sit down. That's what you want to do ideally. Then once you find that, then you can have that peace of mind of knowing, okay, I'm not going to have to rush. There's no panic. There's no worry about that. Tips for right now is, especially if you're competing, look at how you can practice in the environment that is provincials. So I know a lot of individual competitors and teams, what you're going to do is you're going to get your pad folios in a couple of days if you haven't got them from swag pickup. And don't practice on a table, practice on your lap like you would normally, and just write down your notes and get into the environment that'll actually be like. The other thing you can use is also blank piece of paper, but again, no pre-printed notes, either the pad folio paper or the blank piece of paper and a black or blue pen, one of that. That's all you need. Go in confident knowing you've got this because you practice so much. You've taken the time. Even being here today is that one step forward that you can use to elevate your role play. So go in with that confidence, and I know you guys will do awesome.
All right, so now for some last minute tips for our written presentations. So you still have about 3 to 4 days before arriving, and this is the time to be practicing in front of friends, family, advisors, really anyone who's going to listen to you. Deciding to wing your presentation probably isn't the best approach. Memorizing is definitely personal opinion. I choose not to memorize my presentations, but I make sure that I do know the slides and a couple key points on each slide that I'm going to talk about. Secondly, make sure you're very familiar with the content of your written report. It's pretty easy to forget as you've already handed it in, but the judges will often ask you specific questions based on your written report, so it's really important to be familiar with the content. And then with the other questions the judges will ask you, it's very important to have a couple of questions and practice some things, although it's pretty difficult to predict what they're going to ask you. Just practicing thinking quick on your feet is really a good way to do this. So what I like to do is if you have a team, have everyone come up with a couple practice questions and then on the spot ask each other, and this will just, it gets you thinking on the spot and quickly on your feet. So at Provincials, please remember that we will not have access to Wi-Fi, so please do not rely on Wi-Fi or data for your presentation or for any unique demonstrations that you might require it for. A presentation emergency kit is also a really good idea. So make sure to bring a bag that has any supplies you might need to repair your presentation in case things go wrong. So for example, if you're using a PowerPoint, bring a USB with a couple of slides on it. If you have a presentation board, bring things such as glue, scissors, tape, really anything you're going to need in case you need to repair the board. Last year, I actually bought a bottle of crazy glue, and it worked out great because on the bus ride to Toronto, we dropped our prop and it smashed, so it definitely came in handy. Before leaving your hotel room, a good idea is to have a list of everything that you will need to present. So things on your list would include your ID, your lanyard, a laptop, presentation board, any props you might need, and a clicker. Be sure to triple check this list before leaving your room. After spending hours repairing our prop, we got down and were waiting to be called and realized we had left it back in our hotel room. So definitely triple check and make sure you have everything with you. So my last and probably most important tip is to breathe and have fun. You have spent so much time preparing and coming up with unique and creative ideas. And when we talk to judges, we hear that a lot of them really enjoy the passion that you have for the presentation you're giving. So make sure you share this with them. That's everything. Good luck and have fun.
All right, so now I'm going to be talking to you guys about our photo challenge we will be launching this week, the Deca app that we have going, and a few other digital things that you can do to stay involved with Deca Ontario during the provincial competition. So firstly, for our photo challenge, this will be one of the initiatives that the Innovators Council is launching. You can post any type of photo from the Thursday to Friday, which the submissions are due Friday, February 8th at 8 p.m. using the hashtag Deca Provincials in order for the opportunity for you to win free swag from us. So we'll be choosing a picture from random, and then we'll DM you all the information regarding that. So make sure you take a whole bunch of pictures. Some ideas for where to take these pictures include the CN Tower, which, like some of the other officers said, will be lit up blue and gold to celebrate Deca Ontario's 40th anniversary. You at a sponsors booth, any of the really cool Deca meals. I know some people like to try really cool stuff that you can get in downtown Toronto. And definitely make sure you stay involved with us on social media regarding that. information regarding it will be posted this week and more ideas as well. So stay tuned on our Instagram and our Facebook for more information. So next I'll talk to you guys about the Deca app, which will be on EventMobi. There is a tutorial on our Facebook and our Instagram posted right now on how you can download that and get onto the specific Deca page. I'll just show you really quickly what the app looks like on your screen. It's super user-friendly, definitely looks clean and is easy to use, which is something that I really like. In terms of the app, I think it's super helpful for anyone who definitely wants to stay on top of things and be on time. So make sure you use the code Deca Ontario to download that. You can find a whole bunch of things on it. So you can check out the list of sponsors, the Shop on Deca operation hours, the Sheridan Center floor plan, which is pretty key if you want to find where your event will be, the award ceremony, seating plan, dress codes. And the most important thing, I think the coolest function on here is that you can specifically click on the event that you are in, and it'll personalize your schedule for you to cater to that event. So it automatically knows which session you'll be going to, where your competition will be located, and all of that information. So definitely check that out. And then other than that, you can be sure to add us on Snapchat. You can see a whole bunch of snaps from the event, and we have a few geo filters that will be launching during the event. So make sure you are active on social media and posting using that.
Okay, great. So that was a lot of information, and I hope that you've all learned quite a bit about everything that's going to be happening in Provincials and are feeling very prepared. Just a few things I want to reiterate before we move into the question section. If there's anything that you didn't catch while we were going through all the information here, or there's anything that you forget by the time we get to the Provincials weekend, as Maria mentioned, EventMobi is a great resource for everything about Provincials. Also, the Deca.ca website, now redesigned this year, is a great resource filled with all the links and files that you'll need for profs, as well as if you go into the hub and you're looking for any tips or tricks for your role plays, for presentations, for exams, everything's in there in terms of ways to really perfect your presentation, make sure you're ready. The final thing I want to go over is if you look in the Provincials program, you will see a full schedule of everything that's going to be happening. And I want to list a few of the key areas that you're going to want to know about for this weekend. First of all, if you're getting a chapter delegation photo on the Thursday night, that'll be in the grand ballroom foyer. If you want to visit Shop on Deca and pick up some of the cool new swag from this year, that'll be set up in the provincial ballroom. All of our sponsors will be set up on the concourse level. So if you want to participate in the sponsor scavenger hunt and get a chance for a free ride to Icdc for someone at your chapter, that's where you'll want to be. If you're in a principals event on Friday, you're going to want to be in the Dominion Ballroom. For team events on Friday, you'll be in the Sheraton Hall or the Osgood Ballroom. On Friday for individuals, you'll be in the Grand Ballroom. And for written events, you're split up a little bit. The ORs and the entrepreneurship will be in the Willow Room. Grit will be in the Spruce and Pine Room. IMCs and PSE will be in the Chestnut Room. The chapter team events will be in the Maple Room. FCE and HTPS will be in the Linden Room. And IBP will be in the Cedar Room. And then next up on Saturday, when you're writing marketing exams for individuals and TDMs that are writing those marketing exams, except for STDM, they'll be in the Sheraton Hall. For STDM, that'll be in the Provincials Ballroom. That's again for the marketing exams on Saturday. And marketing exams for IMCs and PSC will be in the Dominion Ballroom on Saturday. And then all the award sessions finally will be in the Grand Ballroom on Saturday. So hopefully you're feeling completely ready for Provincials. If you have any additional questions at this time, if you could put them in the chat here, that'd be great. And we'll try to get to them as soon as we can. Thank you.
I'll start off with one of the first questions here. When we sit down in the holding area of a role play, are we allowed to start folding right away? So again, the first thing I want to stress off is no pre-printed notes. Even in the holding area, you're not writing anything down. If you do want to fold right away, the first thing I recommend is talking and seeing with your timer or series director or whoever's leading you. Ask them, is this okay? Because what will happen is if they allow it for one person, they have to allow it for the whole event to make sure that happens. So always double check before doing anything like that. My recommendation is to make sure that really you're saving 2 seconds of time. Just wait off until you get the go ahead and go for it then. Don't stress out about it. We're talking about 2-3 seconds of time here and there. You're better off just relaxing, taking a couple of deep breaths. For me personally, I just think about my intro. I'm like, and that it helps, and it definitely helps you. And I think that's a better use of your time there.
All right, so we got a question for what to do if your judge tells you to sit down, but you and your team want to present standing. What I would recommend with this one is you could mention to your judge that you would practice standing, but I would try to stay in the role play or in the situation. I guess it would depend on what you're dealing with. If you have a laptop, sitting might be a better option anyway. But if you have a PowerPoint or like a presentation board standing, maybe practice both ways just so you are prepared in case your judge asks you to sit. I typically try to stay in character and stay in the role play or your presentation, depending on what you're doing.
Okay, we got a question asking, will we be given a table to put our computer/items down in the judging room? So that is referring to the written presentations. So definitely you will have a small table to put your laptop and all that down. It should fit a laptop. I would say it's about a foot long usually. So that's something that you can expect. And it's a pretty long table, but definitely don't expect a lot of space between you and your judge vertically. But yeah, make sure all of your stuff is really easily transportable.
Another question we got was asking whether this will be re-uploaded later. And yes, this will be available on our YouTube page if you want to rewind, look over certain sections, catch those little tips because we're going over a lot of information fairly quickly. It will be up on the YouTube page.
Okay, someone asked if they're allowed to be in regular clothing when they're not competing. So yes, but there are restrictions. So you can be in regular clothing when you're doing things like going out to eat or going to the Eaton Center, any of the kind of non-Deca things. But if you're in any of the Deca competition areas, so that includes the Deca competition floors, so the floor below where you take the elevator down or the one above, you will be asked to leave if you aren't in Deca professional attire. So definitely keep that in mind throughout the competition.
Okay, I have a question. For a Deca first timer, how do we know for the acknowledgement to start? So what will really happen is, especially for first time competitors, you're going to be ushered into, so this is for individual oral events I'm talking about here, is you're going to be ushered into the waiting area. So you're just going to be waiting there for about 10 minutes before they actually put you in to do your case. Then you're going to be sitting down in the case preparation area. And then they're going to give you the case and you get 10 minutes to prep with it. At the end of those 10 minutes, they're going to take the case away from you. You cannot take the case with you inside. That's why it's so important to write down those PIs and the situation about the case. What's going to happen is they're going to line you up. They're going to say, go to judge 1, go to judge 2, go to judge 3. You have to go to that judge and they're going to usher you over. And once you get over there, you're given the go ahead to start right away. And from then on, you have 10 minutes for individuals, 30 minutes for team events, and principals also, you have 10 minutes.
Another question we got was asking whether you're allowed to go into the judge room for written papers or for written presentations with your written paper. And yes, that is allowed. It's just like any other prop. So if you want to use it to enhance certain sections of your presentation or to reference to it to reinforce anything you might be saying, that is definitely allowed and possibly encouraged if you want to help reinforce any points of your presentation.
Another question we had was related to the dinners. So you can find those all on our website, whether you're staying at Chelsea or Sheridan, whether your school has signed up for the dinner or not. There are different times. So just double check the document to see when your chapter has your dinner.
All right, so another question we got was, where can I find the Deca app for iOS? So if you go to the Deca Ontario Facebook page, we have posted both the links for both Apple and Android. So make sure to check that out. As soon as you press it, it'll take you right to where you need to go.
We have a question here about how qualification will work for qualifying for Icdc. This year, all events are sectioned, meaning that you are compared against the people that your judge has seen. The person that will be qualifying for Icdc will be the top person per section, i.e. top person or team that a judge has seen will be the one that qualifies for Icdc.
All right, so we got a question asking, when we walk into the judge room, will the role play begin right away or will someone introduce us and then the role play begins? So this will kind of depend on whatever series director you have. Some series directors like to do it a little bit differently. Just go with the flow with whatever they're doing, whatever the other kids are doing in your category. So usually they'll walk you guys all together to the event area and then they will assign you to your judge and say, go. So definitely just make sure you go with the flow because either way, everyone in your category gets the same amount of time.
So question For the ACT category, there are some pre-printed templates, balance sheets, T accounts, etc. in the role play scenario package. Can we bring that into our judging room, or we have to rewrite that on our paper? So anything that's given to you by the coordinators of the event, you cannot take with you. So they're actually put in laminated sheets, and they'll say, do not write on case. That includes those T-charts or balance sheets or income statements, or for marketing events, those promotional calendars. None of that can be actually taken out. That's not for you. And anything that you're taking with you essentially is created in those 10 minutes, nothing pre-printed, and it's created with your paper, that either Padfolio or that blank piece of paper that you bring with you that your judge will check.
Another question for written events: will we have to buy a folio for provincial presentations? And no, your Padfolio will be provided complimentary. If you're talking about the binders that you have for Icdc, those aren't required for provincials, so you don't have to worry about that at all.
Another question we had with how to incorporate your Scantron at the start of the role play so you don't forget to give it to your judge. Something I like to do is when I'm making my intro, I just say, oh, here are some supplementary documents for this presentation or this meeting, just to try to make it seem natural. Or even when you're just sitting down, you open up your Padfolio, just simply hand them the Scantron. They know that you're going to be giving it to them. So don't worry, just try to make it natural.
We got a question asking if you can leave your report with your judge if you are in a written category. So you can leave anything with your judge as long as it doesn't really have any monetary value. So that can include any extra sheets of paper you want them to reference during the presentation, your report if you want to reprint that, and any budget, anything like that. So as long as it's kind of paper is essentially like the rule of thumb, definitely just don't leave any props or anything like that with them, as everything will A, go into the garbage, and B, they can't really accept anything like that.
So I have a question. What do you do if you get hit with a situation you weren't prepared for in your case? Really, the first thing to do is not panic. That's the first step in anything, because that's just going to set you off on a road that you don't want to go down. Ideally, the best situation is you've planned for as much as you can, either a situation in your event. I know personally for retail merchandising, I've looked and seen what is going on with the industry, what could possibly happen in this case or not. If you really don't know what's going on, identify what it's asking for. Use the PIs as your guiding points. They're not there to scare you. They're really there to help you. So if your PI is explain the nature of a promotional plan, and your case is about something you don't know about, you're likely going to need to create a promotional plan. So that gives you some hints right there on what you can do to really identify your case and really bring it to the next level. That's what I would say.
All right, so I have a question for what is the biggest tip for succeeding in role plays. I don't necessarily think that there is a single answer. You definitely want to stand out. So any unique way that you can have a creative idea or express this, whether you come up with a prop and use that. And then the second thing would be really to use your performance indicators and relate those to your idea or your solution for the problem.
So another question we've had, actually a few questions about the time cards and them being uploaded. Actually, we've re-uploaded them. So you can go back to the Provincials page on Deca.ca. Underneath student resources and student schedules by chapter, all the time cards are like everyone's time is there, not the time cards, but by chapter, you can see your event as well as your judge and the time you'll be competing.
Right, and as for where you can store your personal belongings, so Deca does have a coat check, the Sheraton does have a coat check, so you can pay a little bit and leave it there. But usually at Provincials, chapters usually pick a spot near competition floor or somewhere around the hotel where all of them leave their stuff together, and usually there's at least 1 or 2 people looking over everyone's stuff, so you can also leave it as to wherever your chapter will be for the day.
One of the questions was, for OR events, participants take on the role of a hired consultant given a task, and the judge is the owner of the company. So this is a bit of an awkward situation where you're explaining the company to the owner of the actual company. So the ways to get around that is to present it as your research about the company, because you're conducting your own primary research about the company. It should be data that they don't have themselves, or you're synthesizing that data into deeper conclusions that they might not have about their own company. So don't take it as you're telling them what the company is, more you're telling them how you're perceiving the company and how you're perceiving how you can complete the task, what the OR topic is this year for social events, and how you can how you see their company, how you can complete that task.
Okay, we got a question asking, so for the IMC events, will the judge have read a report before the presentation? You should expect that the judge has no familiarity with your report. And this is because even if they have had time to read over it, the time wouldn't be really enough for them to even have a base level idea of what you're doing. You really want to start from beginning to end to explain your entire presentation, explain your entire company situation and all of that. You should touch on everything from your budget to the executive summary and incorporate it into your presentation just so that your judge has the best idea as far as what you're doing. And that way it also makes what you're saying sound and flow a little bit better.
I've gotten a few questions for those of you who are writing the multiple choice exam on AnswerRight. Try your best not to open another tab. Try to use Google Chrome if you can. If you open another tab or open another window, you could risk having your score flagged.
So I have a question about actually using AnswerRight and some discrepancies of questions. So what I'm going to say about that is if you are doing an exam or if there's something you don't think is right, always reference the actual paper copy of the exam. And what do I mean by that is by checking on register.deca.ca is we have all those PDF copies of the exam there. And if not, they're actually your chapter advisors would have gotten a USB with the exams and case studies that you could use from Fall Symposium. So referencing that, speaking to them, seeing all that, because there are many different resources. If there's a question you don't know why it's right on AnswerRight, always look for those PDF copies, because what it'll do is it'll give you paragraph explanations on each question. Why was it wrong? What is this talking about? What is this? And that's really helpful that you can use about it. And then that can, one, it'll also help you understand why you're getting it wrong, and two, remember it so you won't get it wrong next time.
All right, so another question we got, what can I do to stand out? And can you use real life examples when explaining your performance indicators? So as for standing out, you want to make sure that you have 10 minutes, or if you're doing a team event, you have around 15 minutes, specifically for role plays. So remember, you don't have to use up all of that time. A lot of competitors like to pack in as much information as they can per performance indicator. So remember that you don't have to go over every single little thing for that one. Explain your performance indicator, but only pick out the specific and significant aspects of them. So for example, if you're talking about the different marketing techniques, there are so many marketing techniques, but you don't have to go in depth into every single one of them. Just pick the specific ones that you actually need and explain them and really relate everything back to your case. One of the most important things is really making sure that every single thing you say has a point in your specific role play. So make sure that everything ties back to your solution. Now, going over or relating back to that, can we use real life examples when explaining your performance indicators? Yes, you can do that. And that is actually one of the best ways to stand out. You'll notice that Deca uses a lot of really current issues to design their case studies. Like, for example, last year, hotel lodging and management got a case on Airbnb, which is really, really relevant. So you want to research as many real life examples, trends that you can. And I would say pick a couple real life examples per instructional area, which will really help you when you get to your case study. So you want to incorporate them not only into your solution by just repeating the same sort of strategy real life companies have used, but also add your own twist to that real life example. Like say, this company X did this in real life and it worked out really well. And in our situation, we can use their plan, but change it up a little bit to sort of make it even better for our specific situation. So those are some of the best tips I have to stand out in your role play.
I have a question. If the judge is the chairman of a company, should we include include the introduction of the company? And ideally, what you should do is introduce yourself in a creative way if possible. So I know what I've done in the past is like, hi there, nice to meet you again. I know we were talking just last week. I wanted to go over some key points with you. I know as you're really busy as the chairman of the company, and try to introduce in some creative ways. And you can also do that to slip in your Scantron sheet of paper, because remember, you have to give that to them at the beginning of the case so they can use that to mark you. So just be like, here are some of the meeting agenda notes I've got for you, or I know you wanted this report today. I got it finished for you. So here's just something that you can do. That's how I'd recommend to bring that up.
Okay, so we got a question regarding ACT. So it said that within the case, there is a template and it says use the following template to display your work. And the question was regarding whether you can bring the template in. So the template is going to be incorporated into the role play case scenario that you're given when you have time to prep. So you will have the opportunity during that prep time to copy the template down and insert all of the adequate information, but do not bring in a pre-printed template. You cannot bring in any pre-printed materials.
All right, so we had another question about it, whether you bring in a black and blue pen. Can you use both while prepping your presentation? By all means, you can, but like I highly recommend just sticking to one color, especially for the information you're going to be showing the judge. I know sometimes I used to list out my PIs, for example, in blue, but then write down like my answer to the PIs in black pen, because that just helped me visually see it, but only stick to blue and black pen. Don't go with reds or any other highlighters. You will lose points. So just blue and black pen is the best and safest option.
So someone asked, for OR events, students, again, take on the role of a hired consultant. How would you recommend beginning and getting into character? So the best way is usually just to introduce yourself as you would normally and say, like, hi, my name is Matthew, and I'm part of the Kingston Consulting Group. And you really want to introduce what your goal is, what your mission is, what you want to do for the company. So for last year, it was dealing with customer service, and me and my partner, we said, we want to improve Scotiabank's customer service systems. And then we got into our plan of how we were going to actually do that. So try to introduce yourself as a consultant with your mission.
Someone here asked how to deal with nervousness before a role play or a presentation exam. Try to get to your call time a little earlier. This is a great opportunity for you to network with some of the other Deca members. Deca Provincials is a wonderful place for you to get to know other people and make new relationships. Talking to other people, for me personally, helps calm me down before going into a role play. As for once you're in the role play, and if you run into a performance indicator you might not necessarily know, wing it. Make an educated guess. You have 10 minutes to give it your best shot, and
All right, so there's some questions asking where and how to practice for exams. The simple answer is all exams can be found in the hub, so you can practice them as many times as you need and look at your answers and come up with possible solutions.
Question, can you bring in many pieces of paper of different sizes, or is that not allowed? So what we're going to say is stick with legal size paper or the Folio paper, and just use that. And ideally, what you can do with the paper is you can fold it whatever you want with that, but keep it to that one size paper. The other thing I want to emphasize is no cardstock paper, no color of different colors. Just keep it simple with white. I love the fact that everyone's being creative with it, but this is the stuff that we want to ensure that all the competitors are starting with the same thing. So that paper that you bring in should be something generic, not too thick, no different colors.
So we had a few questions about whether you can wear a smartwatch or any sort of like Fitbit while doing your role play or prepping your role play. That they didn't allow those because you could be using them and the series director or people couldn't know, and that could give you an unfair advantage. So to be safe, I highly recommend don't wear those. Don't wear your Fitbit, don't wear your smartwatches. Stick with the normal like analog business formal watch, because that really, it helps get you into the role as well. In a real world business situation, you're probably going to be wearing a formal business watch when you're meeting with a client or your boss. So just with the theme of just being in that like business mode, I'd avoid wearing smartwatches and just stick to your normal analog watches.
So there's a question here about how you should take on the role. So for example, in an OR event, how you would take on the role of a hired consultant. I would recommend just starting introducing yourself. So hi, my name is Jensen and I'm the hired consultant here at XYZ company. And then you'd continue with your presentation.
So there are some questions on here regarding scores and when all of that will come out. So specifically when scores for written reports will be released. So none of the scores or any of that information will be released till after the provincials event. That date is not set quite yet, but you should expect within the next week or two after the event. So you won't unfortunately get to know what your written score is when you're going into the presentation, but definitely if you go in with a 100% mindset with confidence and all that, then that should not affect you. Okay, does anyone have any more questions? I'm trying to see here if there's any more questions that were unanswered. All right, we'll wait another minute or so. Definitely, if you guys have any other questions and you either missed the opportunity to be in this live stream while it's going on and you're watching it back, or if you have any other questions, anything like that, you can DM us on Instagram, any of us personally, or you can DM the Deca Ontario Instagram as we are there. You can email us any of our first names at deca.ca, and you can message us on Facebook, anything like that. Usually on social media, either Keshav or myself will see it. So definitely feel free to ask us any questions.
I'm just going to give a quick reminder. So for anyone that's actually interested in going to Orlando for Icdc this year, or anyone that thinks they're going to make the top 10, 9, 8 for their event as a provincial champion, we need to know if you can actually go to Icdc. So what's going to happen is right off the stage, they're going to usher you out, and they're going to ask, are you going to Icdc? And it's either a yes or no. And you have to know at that time if you're going to Icdc, and speak to your parents about the associated costs from it. Icdc is in Orlando from April 25th to May 2nd. So if you do have other commitments or something that has planned, make sure to know about that beforehand, because if you do say yes and that answer changes to no, there are some cancellation fees that apply, and it becomes a lot harder to deal with that situation then.
To address one of the questions, whether or not the roleplay events will have a table to prep, you guys won't have the table to prep for provincials, so make sure you have a pad folio or just something for them to write on where you can take your notes on. So it's just going to be in your lap.
Okay, so there was a question, actually a few questions about whether you're sick and whether it's really cold outside and there's weather warnings, what will be going on. So in terms of weather warnings, that's definitely something you want to play by ear, but we can say with 99% confidence that the event will still keep running with weather warnings. If you're sick, unfortunately, there is no retake, anything like that. So try your best to come in and do your presentation or your role plays. The beauty of it is that it doesn't really take that long to come in and do that. And if you are sick and you end up not showing up to your event, that is an automatic DQ.
All right, and as for FCE, can I put my presentation in sheet protectors? You should be able to. It won't really impact your presentation in general, so you should be able to do that.
And also there was a few people that were asking about where they can find the Deca Ontario app. So I can't talk about for Apple, but I'm pretty sure it'll be about the same. So you can go to the Play Store or the App Store and you want to search for Event Mobi, M-O-B-I. And then you can download that app and it'll ask you to add an event. And you can go to the events and you type in the code Deca Ontario, one word, no capitals. And that will give you access to the Deca Ontario event. And you can see everything there.
Okay, so there was just a bit of confusion in the chat. So someone said they're asking if there is a table for you to put your computer on. So the difference is for role play events, when you are prepping your case, you will not have a table. So make sure you bring something like a pad folio in order to prep your case. For written events, so if you're doing the pre-planned presentation, you will have a table to put your materials on. Don't expect it to be too big, but it should fit things like a laptop, some papers and all that kind of stuff. So role play events, you will not have a table to prep, but you will have one when you're presenting, and written events, you will have a table.
I have a question. When will our call times be released again? So just as a reminder, what's going to happen is your chapter advisor or your chapter itself will have your name badges. And on that name badge, it'll have your call time for you. So just remember to have that name badge with you, as you need that to compete, as well as ID. So have photo IDs with you as well. No ID, no compete, and have your badge as well. You need those two things to compete, essentially. And your portfolio and your pen and paper if you're in a role play event. Don't forget those.
Another question we've had about, are we in a prep room with other competitors similar to regionals? Well, the way it works at provincials, there's going to be like just chairs. So they're going to be probably 10 chairs or set up, and you'll just be sitting in the chairs prepping. So there'll be people literally shoulder to shoulder with you while you're prepping your role play. So just keep that in mind for the level of comfort.
So there was a question that said, what would be a creative answer for creating a promotion plan for a product besides normal mediums like social media, etc.? So some examples I can speak to right off the bat is a celebrity endorsement or any sort of endorsement, partnering with any sort of charity, foundation, anything like that. Those things usually pull at the heartstrings of your judges. And for other information and ideas regarding that, you can check out, I know that there is a few Masters Club articles on that you can find within the Deca Hub. So when you log in on Deca Ontario and you can check out our Deca Hub portal, there are definitely some more resources regarding some really cool creative solutions that you can check out for that.
And as for whether or not you'll be provided with a Deca Pad Folio, yes, every Provincials competitor is provided with a Deca Pad Folio. Your advisors or a chapter executive had the opportunity to pick it up from the Sheraton or different locations so far. So whenever next you meet your chapter advisor, you will be given your Pad Folio along with your time cards.
All right, we're just seeing if there's any other questions. I know some of you guys were asking about where you can find the app, and definitely just start off by searching your app store. If you can't find it, it's obviously not the end of the world. You can find all of the information still on Deca Ontario website. But yeah, definitely if you have any other questions, now is the time.
I've just posted the links to the app itself on the chat, so you guys can take a look at that.
There was also someone that's asking, same question, about official Deca folios for written events. And I think they're referring to the ones at Icdc. There's these blue folios that you have to put your written paper in when you submit it. And those are not required for provincials. You won't have to use those at all. That's only for at Icdc when you have to hand in the hard copy of your written. At provincials, you won't need those.
So there was a question regarding how you will find out if what your mark is combined. So they said for written sectioning, is the top one team for each judge determined from the report and presentation mark combined, or only presentation mark? So your event breakdown can be found when you check out the Deca Ontario website. You go to your event and it'll talk about whether your event is 100% presentation, if it's 50-50 with your role play, or sorry, not your role play, your exam and your presentation and your report, or if it's just your report and your presentation. So be sure to check that out. The ones that are 100% presentation, I can tell you that your reports will still be checked, and any necessary points that are for deduction purposes will be taken into account. So I know you've already handed those in, but that's something to keep in mind. And in terms of sectioning, I'll say this again, it's different for every category just based on how many people are in the category and how many people from the category will be able to qualify. So definitely don't dwell on the numbers and just focus on giving your 100%.
Another question we've had about whether you can make a business card near the end of the prep time. So by all means, you can definitely make a business card, but remember you can only use like your blank sheets of paper. You can't bring in your own card stock or something that's pre-cut. So you can only use like your pad folio paper, simply rip it. The judges do understand if it's just like the rips are a bit curvy and whatnot, but make sure it works well with this role play and the situation. Oftentimes students just think to themselves and go on like a robot mode and just make a business card, but think about it. If you're speaking to your manager, you're not going to be giving them your business card. Make sure that the business card is appropriate for the situation and it works for who you're speaking to. So just be sure to check those small things in your role play, but by all means, it's good to do that to go above and beyond.
Okay, and someone else asked, for overnight stayers, are we allowed to visit our friends in other rooms? And the answer is yes, as long as it is before curfew and as long as it's not someone of the opposite gender. So girls can't go into boys' rooms, boys can't go into girls' rooms. So other than that, you are allowed to visit your friends in other rooms.
And just I'll add on with that, you have to make sure whatever you're doing at the event is not only up to our rules, but it's up to your advisor's rules. So if your advisor kind of has a different curfew set out for you guys that is earlier than ours, then that's what you have to follow. If they have stricter rules depending on where you get to go and what times you have to do that, ultimately you want to make sure you follow their rules, because if you break ours, you answer to Deca Ontario, but if you break your school's rules, you'll answer to your principal and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you're checking with your advisor before you do anything like that, just so that we all have a positive experience.
So question, how do we approach emotional intelligence cases that only have PIs with demonstrating actions like show empathy and demonstrate self-control? So really, no matter what case you get, there's always something you can do differently. With some of the broad cases that are more basic in terms of emotional intelligence that anyone can usually get, really the way you can shine is one, by having a really killer definition, by knowing that on as the top of your head. And the other thing too is really think about those creative visuals that you can do. By showing empathy, what can you actually do? I know in a retail situation, I can actually act out a situation that would happen in the case. If I was doing a situation about sports and entertainment and talking about empathy, I can talk about a customer service plan and creating the customer service plan to show our employees how we can create empathy for our customers and foster something that will not only help us now, but in the future to come. And see, I've just taken that idea of empathy and I've used that to help me in my plan. I've connected it back to the case, and then I've gone above and beyond. That's what you can do with some of those basic level cases about emotional intelligence. But if you get a case about financial analysis, or you get another case which is really technical, that's when that knowledge can also come in and really shine in.
All right, so what are some real life examples of successful hotels and how to use that for PHT role plays? Now, before you go into your role play, you have a couple of days. So I would highly recommend researching everything you can pertaining to different instructional areas and how hotels have really succeeded in those areas. So for example, take pricing. The Marriott Hotel uses a pricing strategy where they have this database that collects every single hotel room price, different types, different prices, different levels of hotels. And what they do is they make sure that they're not the highest price and they're not the lowest price. They like to be right in between. And that's a strategy that they personally use because it shows that, you know, they're not necessarily too overpriced, but they're also not really low price, which is normally associated with quality. And that's often how they get so many customers and how they have such a great brand name or presence, because they try to find the perfect price by using this database and collecting all of this information. And this is something that you can use in a potential case where you have to determine the price of a specific hotel room. In other cases, things like customer service. So a lot of hotels now are having different kiosks where people can simply just check in without actually having to go to an actual person. I believe certain hotels like the Moxie Hotel actually have this app where you log in, you add in all of your information, and you don't actually have to get a physical key card. You just scan your phone on that specific sensor that's on the hotel room door, and you can enter right away. So that's an example of how customer service is used there and how they make things a lot more efficient and easy for their customers. So if you ever do get a case about customer service, little examples like that are really great to add in. Another tip about PHT in specific, I would definitely say to make sure to research all of your different types of hotels, the different levels. Sorry, guys. I'm very passionate about PHT, if you can't tell. But definitely do make sure to research all of that, different, tourist locations. I remember getting a case about a botanical garden in grade 10 when I was in PhD.
Do you want me to cut you off really quick? Sorry, guys. We're just having a giggle over here because we're scared that at 9 o'clock this is going to end. So if this live stream ends just because we've been going for an hour, then we'll relaunch it, and you guys can just join the new one. But I'll let Vilma continue. So just in case that happens, then you can expect that to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was pretty much just going to end off there. Just make sure you know all the different sectors of the hospitality industry, major companies, and search up their, major strategies, and definitely try to incorporate those in your cases.
Okay, looks like we're good. Let me see what other questions we have here. So someone asked where they can find the exact time they will be presenting. You have to check out your time card, and I think Keshav can give you more information on where you can find the time card.
Yeah, so one, we mentioned this a couple times, but your Deca advisor, your chapter advisor will have your name badge. You have to have that for competition. That'll have it for sure. That's your go-to place. The other thing I've also linked is the chapter event management system, the CEMS, the document with that has some of the times there. You can find that at deca.ca/about-provincials. And I linked this in the chat as well a little while back. And that has your time as well that you can use. But again, this is not something that you have to really worry about now, and don't stress about your time. Use your time now to really prep and go above and beyond with your case. Every minute that you can use now with prepping that intro, with knowing your PIs, is a minute that you can use to bring up that score. And that's what you want to ideally do. So don't worry about that necessarily. You will get that name badge from your chapter.
We had a question earlier about ties. If there is a tie for someone who would qualify for Icdc, the tie is broken by whoever has the higher exam score. If there is a tie amongst the exam scores as well, then the tie is broken by looking at who has the higher non-performance indicator score. So those are like the 21st century skills.
Another question we had was how to be creative in your role play using like unconventional visuals, so not your normal business cards or just the PowerPoint or something like a SWOT. Something I really like to do is create sort of a visual or an infographic really quickly that goes over the plan. So often in role plays, you're asked to address so-and-so, and that's what the judge is looking for. It's what I like to target as like the thesis of the role play and the main purpose of my meeting with the judge. And what I'd like to do is I make this one sheet and I write like plan. And on there, I'll throw on small little things, like small visuals, but also notes, but just brief notes, like maybe my 3 best points. But then something I always like to do is include a little calendar. I draw out 3 rectangles or like 6 rectangles, and I say we can put this plan into place and test it out over the next 3 or 6 months. And it gives the judges sort of like a visual where you don't want to say that your plan is going to be permanent, but it still shows you're thinking about the company and how you can incorporate the plan in the actual company for the next 3 months or 6 months, and then see how it's going to adapt to that. And I just write down some like metrics as well on how we're going to measure the success of this plan that I've created. And the judges like to see that, and it's a different type of visual or anything else. Like in the past, I know I've also made an actual like promotional flyer. I'm terrible at art, but I literally just drew out stick people, and sometimes judges like them. It just gives them and gives something like a common ground that you have between your judge and yourself that shows your ideas on paper, and judges like to see that. So just find different ways to be unique and things that judges do like. Yeah.
So got another quick question. What are exactly our 21st century skills? So you'll see this after you talk about your PIs. Some of the cases, what they'll have is what's called 21st century skills. And these 21st century skills are some of the things that you can use to really, for your judge to decide how your case was, see how it appealed. So I'm just going to list off a couple of those 21st century skills. Reasons effectively and uses systems thinking, makes judgments and decisions and solves problems, communicates clearly and shows evidence of collaboration, shows evidence of creativity, and overall impression and response to the judge's question. So depending on your event, the actual mark for those specific sections are going to vary a little bit. But reason effectively and use system thinking, my recommendation for that is really Did you solve the problem in the case? And more importantly, was your rationale correct? Did you assume that we're in this market, this type of market structure? Is this the situation that's happening with the company? Is it accurate? Makes judgments, decisions, and solve a problem. If the case asks you to make a decision, if the case asks you to more specifically choose an option out of the 3 or an option out of 2, make a decision. That's basically where that mark comes from. Communicates clearly and shows evidence of collaboration. For communicate clearly, watch how you speak, your tone, your expression, your hand gestures, and more importantly, those filler words, like, as, those type of things as well. Shows evidence of creativity. What can you do above and beyond? How do you elevate your role play? And last one, overall impression and response to the judge's question. Overall impression, your intro, the way you dress, how you present yourself, and response to the judge's question, the questions they ask you at the end of the role play.
All right, and as for how casual should we be, I know the person asking this question mentioned that their judge really loved it when they were talking conversationally. So I would definitely say it depends on the situation as well as your position. So for example, if you are the colleague or your judge's colleague, you want to make sure that you're being more conversational because it's somebody that you meet every day, you talk to on a regular basis. In contrast, if you were talking to your boss and you're a new employee, you would try to be a little bit more formal. That being said, again, do try to read your judge. You will definitely be able to tell how your judge is feeling based on how you're talking, depending on their demeanor and depending on how they react to what you say. So in that situation, just sort of go with your gut as to what your judge would prefer best.
All right, so there's a question about informal presentations such as the ones on the Shark Tank and Dragon's Den. I probably wouldn't use the word informal for this. Your presentation should be very formal. You're in professional attire and you should be talking to your judge as if you're in a real situation. In terms of a presentation like Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, for sure, you want to capture the judge's attention. You want to get your main points of your presentation through, and you do only have a limited amount of time with questions after. So yes, a presentation like a Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, but it definitely should be formal.
So just a quick question is asking, do you have any tips for MTDM and FTDM? Unfortunately, we don't have the time to go for every specific event, but the easiest way to find tips specifically for your event is to go onto the Deca Hub, register.deca.ca, and look at those master club resources, because we have champions that have been to Icdc and they have won first, second, and third, and they've given all their secrets there that'll help you actually win at your event. For marketing events, especially look at your performance indicators. Expect cases that you've seen in the past, especially with marketing. I know promotion cases are big, cases about channel management, that type of thing. FTDM, financial team decision making. Know your financial analysis. Know your fundamental accounting occasion. Know your balance sheets. Know everything that you want to know before going into the case, and know what all the other competitors will know and how you can boost yourselves in front of them.
So we just had a quick question that said, after doing your second role play for individual events, are we free to leave the Sheraton as long as our advisors are okay with it? So I can speak to whenever any event is done competing. So in terms of Deca Ontario duties, as a competitor, once you're done competing, all you have to do is make sure you show up to the award ceremony. And from there, your advisor and yourself and the rules that you guys have set out regarding that is fair game.
Another question we had was how to improve cohesiveness when making your team presentation. So something that's often really good to do is address your partner. Be like, hey, just like Keshav said this, and then you could be like, or next, Maria will be talking about so-and-so. So it shows that both of you are on the same page, and simply just look at them and nod. It makes it look more believable. Even though it's going to look weird, it's going to feel weird looking at like your partner and nodding. That just creates the overall like general tone that you guys are in it together, addressing each other as well, but also making sure everyone knows all the information. So when you, for role plays, I know when you're doing your prep, don't be like, oh, you just do this, I'll do this. Make sure each of you know what like everyone's talking about and everything about the rest of the PIs too. Because if the judge asks the question, and this goes for written presentations as well, let's say Matt talked about one section of their presentation, but I can answer the question and be like, oh, as Matt mentioned in our presentation, so-and-so and so-and-so. It shows how everyone's on the same page, and judges like to see that for cohesiveness and also the transitions between each other.
Just a quick point on some of the team cohesiveness stuff. So if you're going to do a nod or tap, that's great. The one thing I will caution from, and this is a story, is if you're going to tap your partner, do so lightly. Don't tap them really hardly and try to get them to do it. Because I'm telling you this from a story from one of our school. One of our teams, what they did is they tapped, and they actually shook the table because the table's pretty light. And if you shake too far or if you miss, you're going to hit the table and it's going to vibrate like crazy. So just a little note there, a little tidbit that you can use. Another question that we've also gotten is, is it possible for teams to have multiple judges, or is it always a single judge? It is always possible for any competitors to have multiple judges. I've gotten multiple judges at Icdc before. There are multiple judges at Provincial sometimes. So it's nothing to worry about. It's the same situation. Everyone that sees you is going to get those 2 judges or that 1 judge, whoever it is. So there's nothing to worry about there. And what do you do if you really don't know the answer to a judge's question? What I say, and I teach this to everyone at my school when I teach principals, what I say is the questions are not there to scare you. They're the easiest part of the case if you allow them to be. Because what the questions do is they're almost like a catch-up. If you forgot to talk about this, and I know specifically with promotion cases, what happens is, so how long are you planning to run this promotion? Or what budget do you think is appropriate for this? And those questions are there because you're more likely to forget that type of stuff, and it gets you those marks that you would have forgotten. If you really don't know what it is, take 2 seconds to think. It's much better to stop and think about your problem before it is if you ramble on. And the other thing too is just relax. If you don't know an answer, you can be like, I'm going to talk with the marketing team and discuss before I get back to you. That's a worst case situation. Or you can assume or make an assumption. You don't have to be perfect. No one is going to go in there this weekend and is going to be perfect 100%. Nothing wrong with it. This is the best case in the entire world. Everyone's going to make a little mistake here and there. And it's about learning and accepting those things that are going to make you a better competitor and a better person overall, really.
All right, so moving on, as for what would you do if you find that you may be repeating a point for PBM, definitely if you do find yourself in that situation, simply try to wrap your point up as soon as possible and summarize it really quickly. You only have so much time, and since you've already said it, you know that you can sum that point up as soon as possible. As for ENT, we do understand that there aren't many resources because it's such a new category. Again, make sure to try cases from every single category. Because entrepreneurship is so broad, you're bound to have something or the other from that category. As well, make sure that you know a lot about entrepreneurship, study the PIs, and look at how businesses start up. I know the previous cases were all based on that, so make sure to do that for sure. And as for any other tips for PBM or exam study tips, do make sure to look at the training kit in the student section in general information of the hub. That will pretty much have all of the tips we can give you that are transferable for all categories.
So just a quick question that's common is, how intimidating are the judges at Provs? So what'll happen is the judges are essentially told not to give you any reaction. They're not supposed to encourage you being like, that was awesome, that was great, or no, that was horrible. They're going to stay monotone most of the time. So don't be alarmed by that. Don't take it as a bad thing. That's just how they're going to be. I've gotten panicked in the past because I've been worried about my case. How did that go? So relax. If they look intimidating or if they look stone-faced like this, that's going to happen, and that's just a natural thing. So don't worry about that. That's nothing to be alarmed about.
All right, we're going to do about, I think, one more question, and then we'll wrap up for the evening. And again, if you have any more questions, you can message any of us personally or on any of our Deca Ontario social medias. So let's just see here. Does Jensen want to answer the question that is, do you have any CSP tips on how to present your project schedule without making your presentation sound boring?
Okay, so I think the best way to make it, to present it without making it sound boring is including real stories of things that happened. So you might have had this perfect plan, but obviously things arise while you're actually working with the project. So our project was a soup fundraiser when I competed in CSP, and we actually blew a fuse and all 30 of our crock pots stopped working. So include a story and kind of make it funny, but then also show how you came up with a solution to that and kept going Yeah, real life stories and examples. Try to connect with the judge a little bit. That's probably my best advice, but come up with unique and creative things. Catch their attention.
Okay, and then I'll just really quickly answer a question about the swag. So they were asking about a price range for all of the swag items. So we have a variety of things, but I'd say everything is really good price. So like your sweatshirts and all that, you can expect to be in the $20 to $30 range. We have jackets, those, and the laptop bags. Those are probably the most expensive thing at $50. But then there's also a lot of stuff that you can get for under 10. So like luggage tags, stickers, all that kind of fun stuff as well. So definitely just stay tuned for our prices at Provincials because they might be a little bit different. But yeah, definitely there's something in there for everyone. Overall, I'd just like to thank everyone for attending the live stream this evening. And if you're watching it back from in the future, hi, we're excited that you guys are part of Deca Ontario, over 15,000 members this year and part of our 40th anniversary. We really look forward to getting to see everyone at Provincials. Definitely say hi to any of us if you see us around. And if you have any more questions, I'll say this 100 times. Feel free to message any of us. Our first names at Deca.ca. So an example would be Maria at Deca.ca. You can message any of our Deca Ontario social medias, which you should follow. And yeah, thank you everyone. Have a great evening and enjoy the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl.